Hello and welcome to the first session of third course. Today we're going to talk about Kamal and anti-Kamal selves, definition of Taghut or rebellion, inner Satans and external Satans. We're going to talk about internal and external La ilaha illallah, historical effort of human beings on mind silence, challenges on the path on achieving mind silence through self-relying methods, explanation regarding mind silence, definition of bayane or receiving a sample. I'll explain what that is in its context, why we get ill from mind silence standpoint, and mental-somatic illnesses. As far as practical parts, we're going to receive mind silence Halgheh, and we're going to do two experiments, mind silence Halgheh with closed eyes and with open eyes. My bad for the typo that it says Farad Harmony connection, so ignore that. Before we start, as always, let's hear some reports and if you have any question, and we continue. Anyone would like to share? You guys have my voice and my screen?
Hi, Priya. Yes, I can hear you fine and I can see your screen. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you. So do you guys have anything to share in past weeks or any questions?
Oh, hi, Puria. This is David. How
Hi,
are you?
David. Good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to share an experience that I had about a week ago with you
Yeah, please.
in the class. I was at work at the fire department, and we went to a call for a man that wasn't feeling very well. While he was there, he actually rapidly deteriorated, and he had a cardiac arrest. So while we were there, we did CPR. We used the AED. The ambulance came, gave him full drugs. No response. No response. We worked on him for about 20 minutes, and then I actually did open up Fairdarmony, and within about 30 seconds of that, he actually regained his pulse.
Oh, nice.
And his heart rate came back, and they actually brought him back and did transport him to the hospital. So it was pretty exceptional. The drugs weren't working, the CPR wasn't working, the AED wasn't working, but the opening up the Faradharmony seemed to help out.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. I'm so happy to hear. Thank you. Great experience. Anyone else have anything to share or any questions? Okay, so let's start with the topic of the first thing we're going to talk about is the anti-Kamal and Kamal selves. In anyone's existence, we have a collection of factors that push us toward either Kamal or anti-Kamal. And so we call them anti-Kamals and Kamal selves. Each of these selves are independent and have their own independent task description, either serving toward Kamal or anti-Kamal. Each of these selves that are responsible for anti-Kamal selves are causing negative states such as fear, sadness, grief, hopelessness, helplessness, worry, mind chatter, or inclinations toward superiority or power. In contrary, Kamal cells would cause positive states. For example, peace, calmness, hope, happiness, and presence or inclinations toward Kamal. So human mission in regards to these cells is to be able to manage them. So between this push and pull of these different selves, that one wants to push us toward anti-Kamal and one wants to push us toward Kamal, between this pull and push, we would like to manage these selves and be able to be in control of our decisions and be responsible for our choices. So what it means is the anti-Kamal selves needs to be under our control so we can achieve internal unity, and following that is sublimity. In order for us to have such a management, first we need to become aware of the existence of these selves and their task description. And after the recognition and analysis of the role of the positive or negative of each of these selves, then we can correct our worldview to be aligned with the path of Kamal. It is important to note that one of the most important aspects of this precise design of human creation is these two aspects of positive and negative, these two inclination toward Kamal and anti-Kamal. The existence of this inner antagonism, this inner conflict, it's one of the most important elements of our existence because that gives meaning to our choices. It makes the decision making possible because we have options, one or the other. And it also gives value to our decisions that are aligned. And also, it provides the opportunity and possibility for us to be challenged and tested for maturity and sublimity. So by going under these challenges that is administrated by this anti-Kamal selves, this push, this urges, these forces that are conflicting our urge toward Kamal, is allowing us to be challenged, and through those challenges we become mature and we grow spiritually by managing those selves, by becoming dominant over those selves and be able to surpass um, those barriers. So whenever we are able to have ourselves within us, within ourselves, within us, unified toward Kamal, toward sublimity, what we achieved essentially is internal monotheism or Tawheed, the internal Tawheed, or La ilaha illallah Daruni, or internal La ilaha illallah, which we discussed a little bit, which we mentioned it earlier. So for this reason, from the beginning to the end of the motion of Adam throughout the bipolar universe, the opposition and antagonism exists, which means that God had the plan of Iblis to not prostrate before Adam at the beginning of the creation, to establish and execute the dimension of opposition, to provide the foundation and the requirement for the motion of Adam in this cycle. So being challenged by evil and virtue, good and bad, and through these choices be able to be guided or misguided. The only prerequisite that the only way that the choices of Adam would have value, the choices that would be toward Kamal, is with the existence of these challenging factors, is with the existence of this negative and anti-Kamal factors to push us back and resist our motion and urge toward Kamal, so that by that dominance we can show how much we want Kamal, how much we want that sublimity, and how much we are willing to sacrifice. So the harder it gets, the more value it has. So the art of manifesting and embodying this various manifestations of Adam, the Adamians in this life, which basically means humans throughout the history, is the ability to be dominant over these anti-Kamal forces. The factor that causes this opposition and flowing these forces of anti-Kamal throughout the entire cycle is Iblis. So in another word, the lack of prostration, the lack of bowing of Iblis toward Adam is not a surprise, and it's not something that God didn't want it to be part of the design, but rather it's part of the design, and not only that, but it's essential part of the design. Is essential for this motion, for Iblis and this opposition element to exist. So through that, the scenery of trial of human beings and Adam would be possible. So the lack of disobedience of Iblis and on the surface opposition in a way that not receiving commands of God, not obeying God, not surrendering to the will of God on the surface caused that opposition. But that disobedience is obedience in itself, because without that, the plan of God would not be able to be possible and for that to have meaning. So God gave the disobedience mission to Iblis. So by executing that order of disobedience, then the opposition dimension and the aspects coming with it would be existing and giving definition and value to all the other aspects we discussed. So this disobedience element of Iblis is a pre-designed and pre-calculated aspects of the creation that resulted that disobedience. It was an essential and necessary aspects of creation. Any question? Okay. On the other hand, this apparent arrogance and disobedience of Iblis and God telling Iblis that he does not appreciate that disobedience was an elementary lesson for Adam to go through the cycle and pay attention to that, which means that Iblis, by having that arrogance and disobedience and the lack of surrender, it showed us, taught us at the beginning that by doing so, we would cause opposition. We would get further away from God. We would go toward multiplicity. So the more surrender, the more obedient and harmonious we are, the closer we get, the more um, the more rebellion we become, the more arrogant we become, then we get further away. So Adam, from the beginning of the cycle, was introduced to this concept and have Iblis as the first teacher that taught him what to avoid going through the cycle to not get further and further away from unity with God. In dipolar universe, the universe of multiplicity, Iblis also multiplies. It basically disintegrates to many aspects and have various different manifestation, which part of Iblis becomes this anti-Kamal self of our existence, which we call it Satan's. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have inner Satans and we have external Satans. The inner Satans is part of this Iblis aspect that was essential. It's part of us. We cannot eradicate them. We cannot take them off of ourselves. We cannot remove them, but we can manage them and we can make it subordinate to us. So, and that's the point. That's the art of human being here, to be able to be dominant over those aspects. In creation, every human being is dealing with two forces of Kamal and anti-Kamal in their existence. So basically, they're dealing with this Kamal-oriented aspects of themselves and the existential Satans within themselves that have some proportion of their existence, and there's no one that would not have these aspects within themselves. As well, no one can remove and eradicate these aspects, as I mentioned. So if someone is aiming by any practice, ascetic practices or any type of practices, to eradicate that completely, they're setting up themselves for failure, because that's an essential and existential part of ourself, and it not only gives meaning to gives meaning and value to our Kamal orientation and our success, but also it's something inseparable part of our existence. So the art of human being, a sublime human being, is a person that has a correct management over all these selves, the inner selves and inner satans. So the inner satans become surrender and subordinate to the will of us on the path of Kamal. This art would not be able to embody it and manifest it and have value without the existence of Satan himself. So from this point, Iblis, one of the aspects of existence in a form and aspects of multiplicity, it multiplies and disintegrates to different various manifestations in existence, which part of that becomes anti-Kamal selves of our existence that gives value and definition to our Kamal journey. And for this perspective, it has a very high importance and value. Now, if we consider the definition of rebellion, whoever that rebels and whoever that does not surrender and fight against and go for conflict, not only all the inner Satans would consider Satans or the aspects that are anti-Kamal, but also anyone who embody those values or any value that leads to those aspects. So all of those becomes the elements of anti-Kamal, and all of them become the tyrants or rebellion. So from this definition, wealth, status, children, and any example could be aspects of tyranny or become a tyrant or become a rebellion aspect. Or another word is taghut. So taghut is a very specific term that you could translate it as rebellion, but it really doesn't convey all of it. And there is the word toghyangar, which is rebellion, and it is the factor, and there is a factor that causes that rebellion, so it becomes the factor or the cause of rebellion, which is taghut. So taghut is the causality behind the rebellion, essentially. So not only all the aspects or the Satans, inner Satans, and anyone who embody those values, but also any factor that disturbs, stops, or delays the Kamal, it would also considered Taghut or the rebellion or that tyrant. So even though wealth, status, children, and things like that are not Taghut in and of itself, but they could become the factor of Taghut depending on how we relate to them. So if we consider Taghut as a storm that rushes and takes away your peace and your balance and your alignment and flip you over and destroy your ship that's supposed to go on the journey of Kamal, then any element that can do that, it could be considered a Taghut depending on how we relate to it. If we relate to wealth, if you relate to status that we have or children or any example like that in a way that losing them, let's say, would not cause us to be flipped over and become a factor of stopping our journey toward Kamal or delaying or disturbing our path toward Kamal, then those could not be the factor of rebellion. So it's really depending on how we relate to these aspects and how we go about them. So not only we have internal tyrants or taghut, but we also have external tyrants or taghut. And these are the intermediary or the medium or the manifestations of the activities or the aspects of that internal Taghut. So we have the internal Taghut externalizing itself, those anti-Kamal self externalizing itself and being acted out by some individuals, and those become external tyrants. And we have some example, as you can see in the chart here. We have the general category, and we have some examples that I'm going to go through them one by one. So, for example, we have the first one, pharaohs. These are the examples of the externalized manifested versions of internal tyrants, internal rebellions, and acted out in and manifested in the universe. So pharaohs are the ones that, with a lot of wealth and power, are using others for their personal purposes, and not only they are using them for their personal gains, but also they make them to praise them and um, um, to constantly keep them in a lower stage and feel superior. And um, and they're stopping any type of actions that might lead individuals toward Kamal. So the individual's needs and necessities of life is depending on these individuals, and they make them so much slave, so they can even put pharaohs above God. So the needs and desires individuals like pharaohs passed beyond the wealth and power, and it got to the point of being praised. So a lot of the individuals, people in history, they go through these stages of superiority. First, they're looking for wealth, and that passes goes toward power. And after that, when they filled with power and wealth, then they go after being praised and worshipped. And this is something that we're going to discuss in fourth course. But contrary to this, um, claims that they have godly status, they are very, very afraid and scared of any thing, or even smallest thing that can take those positions and status away. For example, the story of Moses, that it was just an infant, even that dream, thinking about an infant growing up and take their position, made him send all the soldiers after any infant and massacre all the infants. So even with all that power and godly arrogance, they are afraid of the smallest harmless thing like an infant. The second category are Ibn Muljams. These are like examples in histories. So Ibn Muljam is a person that assassinated Imam Ali, which is the first Imams of Shias, and he's the cousin of Prophet Muhammad. He has a very interesting book, and reading that book, it shows that he had a lot of awareness, and he was really a person trusted by Muhammad as well. So Ibn Muljam assassinated him uh, by claiming that they're actually standing for truth. So these people are the people that is standing against truth in the name of truth. For example, you see that in some Christians, you see that in some Muslims, that they use Islam or Christianity, but by their actions and by their words, they actually use that and stand against it. So at first, they are claiming that they have a better understanding and more precise comprehension of the truth, and therefore they claim that other people are not aware that they're not actually worshiping the right God, and they're not able to understand the truth and distinguish truth from wrong, and then they allow themselves to insist on their version of truth to the point that they can even go and assassinate someone. That's the type of individuals, the external tyrants. Dr. Taheri had a chapter of a book associated with this type of people that was supposed to be published. So the third one is the Judas. Judas, you know, in the story of Jesus, it was the disciple that he sold Jesus for some gold coins, and basically revealed the location of Jesus to soldiers, which led the crucifixion of Jesus. And then we have the so essentially are the individuals that are betraying for the purpose of earthly gains, and they are able to close their eyes on the truth and follow the personal gains, earthly gains, as far as basically like selling Jesus for a bunch of coin. And we have the fourth categories like Peter type individuals that are individuals that they're not on the surface, they're not really betraying. They didn't do anything to betray, but their type of betrayal is in a way that they deny their relationship with Jesus, and basically they're not they're letting the fear and concern of, let's say, losing their life or their status or something to deny the truth. So close their eyes for the truth that they need to stand for. And that's the type of betrayal. So these are the general four different types of external tyrants or external rebellion that you can see manifesting in history in different contexts and different challenges. Any question? Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the mind chatter as one of the internal tyrants or internal taghut. One of the most important anti-Kamal selves that is responsible for causing mind chatters, mental scatterness, and give us empty and redundant thoughts is this self, is a tyrant that doesn't allow the individuals to remain present. And this quality of being present is very important and fundamental because receiving revelations is depending on this factor. So this anti-Kamal self does not allow the individuals to be in one place and at one time. So the individuals might be, let's say, if they're at work, they're thinking about going home. If they're at home, they're thinking about the work. So not being present at that time. So this anti-Kamal self that we get to know in the third course in the name of mind, it might be confusing because we have also mental body and we have aspects of mind, but we are learning it in that because the mind is very complicated and a lot of the thought is being processed in there. So when we say mind silence or control of the mind, we are basically talking about controlling this anti-Kamal self that is causing mind chatter. So, um, so you know what we're talking about. So mind makes us its slaves and causes us to release and waste a lot of mental energy. And it's constantly put effort. It constantly puts effort to take us away from the presence and causing that lack of presence. So the halqeh that we're going to receive tonight is the control of this anti-Kamal self. We are able to become dominant over this self. And when we say mind in this sense, we're not talking about controlling the mental body or anything like that. We're talking about uh, being in control of this anti-Kamal self that constantly causes mind scatterness or mind chatter. So individuals can be free from their redundant thoughts, be able to take control over their thoughts, being able to be superior to that anti-Kamal self, to remain present and available for receiving revelations and epiphanies. One of the biggest um, one of the biggest challenges of human being throughout history is fighting against this mind and to avoid mind chatter. One of the biggest efforts, spiritual efforts throughout the human history, is to be able to control this anti-Kamal self, because they gathered that one of these enemies uh, of within is this self that does not stop from giving us various different thoughts, and wherever direction that it wants, it take us, and it even give us emotions accordingly. So maybe even thousands of years, humans are um, trying to control their thoughts and to become superior to that anti-Kamal self. And they might be aware of this factor disturb the unity of within, or unity or uniformity of the mind, and does not allow the mind to be available for other aspects. So this mental chatter or this mental scatterness is something that does not allow individuals to have enough energy or focus or presence to think about um, deeper thing in life, let's say Kamal-oriented aspects of life. So, and in any moment, this anti-Kamal self tries to take us to different various directions without allowing us to have some sort of resolution or be able to get to something positive or getting to that positive um, consequence. So the reason that this self is considered one of the anti-Kamal self is that by causing this mental scatterness and mind chatter, it controls or stops a lot of different activities of human beings. For example, let's say if someone wants to uh, do some spiritual practice, if they're Muslim, let's say if they want to do salat, or if someone wants to do meditation, or if someone wants to sit presence and have some experience, anything spiritual, they are not able to do that because as soon as they want to start, then their mind is constantly occupied in various different things, and they're not actually able to have some experiences. We can also experience that in even at Tesal, that one of the things that you were saying, that the lack of presence, a lack of mind silence could cause individuals to not experience anything because they're so scattered and so distracted that they might not be really sensitive enough and present enough to have sensations or informations as such. So in this course, we are able to use this halqeh and then use this facility to allow us to remain present as long as we want, and then be able to receive revelations and epiphany and be more available for all these different potentials. So from second course, we examine the reasons behind the lack of receiving revelations. And based on the law of reflections, any individuals being enthusiastic to receive positive awarenesses should receive their should see that result. But because the time of receiving that inquiry is not evident, and this awarenesses and epiphanies can come at any moment and any time, and many times doesn't happen during the established connection, let's say in our case. Therefore, it is very important for individuals to be present in all times. And that's what we are aiming to achieve through the help of this halqeh, and we're going to receive other halqehs that help us more. But starting with this one, we want to remain present at any time and as long as we can. So it is very important for us to remain present at all time. And one of other reasons that is important, despite of the fact that we might not experience or receive any awarenesses, the other important factor is that not any awareness would be given 2 times. So there is a law, a natural law, the law of unrepeatability and the lack of exact similarity. So each awareness would be different each awareness would be different from the other. And if we are missing one, we're never gonna get it back again. And even if we get something similar, it's not gonna be the same. So in order for us to not lose the opportunities to receive this epiphanies and revelations and awarenesses, we need to have control over our mind and be able to be present in all times. So even though that individuals are pushing away these divine gifts and being occupied by the earthly life and being drowned in the space and time and other different enjoyments and different earthly desires or things about life, or they use their mental energy to dream about future or to review their memories, they're constantly slave of their um, self, that anti-Kamal self. But in the journey of Kamal, the importance of this halqeh is mentioned, and it has a very high importance for us to be able to get control over this wild horse that just ride us everywhere at once. By having the control over, we are able to control where we are going and how we manage or use our mind, mental energy, and be able to be available for any awarenesses and any epiphanies that comes. So there is two general type of um, achieving mind silence or controlling of the mind. One is self-reliant method, and two is ittisal. So in the first method, self-reliant method, people might use focus, meditation, concentration, or even some invented the beads, the mala beads, if I'm saying it right, by a Christian actually. It was a Christian invention that Muslims use it too. So, or by, let's say they light a candle and then just focus on that candle. So they try to basically bring their mind from all 1,000 different things to one thing, and then maybe try to let that go as well. But that's the self-reliant method. So with all respect to all those methods, because Erfan Halgheh in no aspects of the journey would rely on the self abilities and efforts, and any achievement throughout the Kamal journey requires an ittisal and surrender, and we use ittisal and surrender to achieve those qualities. even though that we have respect for all those methods, we would in Erfan Halgheh, we only use اتصال to achieve that, and as soon as we uh, have that halqa established, then it automatically starts working. However, there is some differences for some individuals, which I will discuss in a moment. So there are some disadvantages with the self-reliant method. For example, one of it is time-consuming, extremely time-consuming, and is technique-based. It requires a lot of repetition, effort, time, and not many people are able to achieve it. And even if they achieve it, it's conditional. As long as they are in that specific condition, they might be able to hold it. But as let's say if they're behind traffic or if they're working, they might not be able to have that state because they don't have their candle or they don't have their eyes closed or they don't have a quiet space or they don't have their malabeats or whatever that they're relying on to achieve that state. And another disadvantage is the lack of ability to know the quality of that. We really don't know what is the quality of the mind control that the individuals achieve. Whereas in Etisal, it's not time consuming, the quality is always there, is the best quality we can get, absolute mind silence as long as we want. And by using these facilities of divine Rahmat Elahi, the connections to the T consciousness network allows us to avoid all those effortful and time-consuming practices and methods, and to be able to accomplish that mind silence and mind control immediately. So this halqa is only for yourself, and you cannot use it for others. And it has two general phases. The phase one is bayane, or it's kind of like a sample or échantillon in French. And what that essentially means that first, this etisal, it works for individuals, so they have an experience of what that means. They're able to have their will uh, affecting what they essentially want to think without being disturbed, and they are able to just command silence in their mind within themselves and have the mind silence. And all the individuals should be able to have that experience at least for a few seconds and experience that mind silence. But this phase would become automatic as much as the individuals show enthusiasm. So the more enthusiasm the individual shows, the better and the more automatic it becomes. So don't give up. If you are one of those people that you open it and then it becomes automatic right away, great for you. But if you're not one of those people, don't give up if you open the halqa and you have only 2 seconds and then it comes back. Just know that all these disturbing thoughts or the thoughts that are constantly disturbing your mind silence, it's like someone knocking at your door and opening your door, and then you close it, and then they open it again after 2 seconds. You close it, and then they open it in 5 seconds, and then you close it back, and then they open it in 10 seconds, and then back and forth, and then you finally manage to just keep that door shut. So don't give up. A lot of people give up because they're not patient, and they start telling me that, oh, it doesn't work, and then when I make them sit and then open the halqa again for them, and they say like, yeah, it worked this time, and I'm like, it works all the time. You just need to use it. Be patient. Don't give up. You might feel pressure on your head. You might feel pressure, internal pressure, some sort of quality mental pressure, because that it's like a fight. It's like you're taming the wild horse of the mind. It's not like the first time that you got on the horse, it becomes the most tamed horse. Sometimes it knock you down, sometimes you need to wrestle with it. It's hard, but it's like taking over a kingdom. So it's a type of a fight that it's worth really fighting. And remember that's a fundamental and essential aspects of our Kamal journey, and it's really important for us to establish that and have it automatic, because then we have it's a prerequisite for receiving awarenesses, and that awarenesses would transform us on an innate level, on a quality level, and that would be a transformation that cannot be taken away by any external logical circumstances. It's something that sits in your heart, transform it from your heart. It stays with you. It becomes permanent. You don't need to remind yourself to be that way. It just becomes natural and organic and your second nature. So it's something really worthwhile. Any question? Okay. So when we have mind control, and one might say that, okay, if you want to be present and silence of mind, then when are we gonna, let's say, plan for our future or like think about things that is essential for life because, you know, the life still goes on. So the only thing that is allowed during the mind control is receiving revelations. Receiving revelations would not be shut. So if something's coming to you and then you want to shut it down, if it's positive awareness, you can't shut it off. And because the goal of this etisal is to receive more awareness, more positive awareness. Now, when you want to think about something constructive, or if you want to plan, or if you want to analyze something for your work or something, that's fine. Essentially, another aspect of this halqa is that you are in control and in charge of what you are thinking. So if you decide to think about something, you think about it, you resolve it, you get the consequence, you get to the conclusion, then that's it. Then you find it more productive. So you're not like basically all over the place, thinking about all the random things and finding yourself maybe halfway through solving a problem, thinking about what happened like 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 2 years ago, and then kind of reviewing that and coming back to it, kind of being scattered um, like that. So you're able to really remain focused and concentrated uh, on the things that you're working. It's very interesting, Halge. We actually gonna explore it um, with closed eyes and open eyes, and essentially the reason is that we should be able to have that mind control regardless of if our eyes is closed or not, and also be able to use our mind like a application, like a software within a computer, like let's say if you're familiar with some modeling softwares or design softwares. We want our mind to be like that. Like, in fact, Dr. Taheri designed an entire factory down to the size of the screws, the flower factory, uh, in his mind. So imagine if you needed a paper to just draw all those details down to the size of the screws. It's so much details. If you're a maker, you know what that is. It's something, and you're able to actually experience that ability to um, to um, sorry uh, to in a, the ability to design and use your mind so focused that you're able to actually remain with concentrated with, let's say, that design, and to be able to not be distracted by any circumstances outside of yourself or any other thoughts or things like that. So that's what we are trying to do. So we're going to explore with mind silence halqeh or mind control halqeh in different ways. First, I want to first we're going to explore if you can do it on your own. So we're not going to open the halqeh. You're going to close your eyes and then try to. This is not going to work obviously for the people that already have the halqeh. But if you don't have the halqeh, we want to just explore closing our eyes and try to shut our mind off or control our mind and see if we can do it. And then after maybe a couple minutes, we come back, then you close eyes again, we receive the halqeh, and then we are able to have that mind silence. And as I mentioned, at first, depending on individuals, for some people might have your mind chatter actually might increase. So you might find yourself like a lot of intense mind chatter, or it can, for some people, it can be just shut and become automatic right away. And then after that, you're gonna keep our eyes open, and I'm going to show you some random pictures, and I want you to look at that and see if you can remain in control of your mind, to not kind of flip back and forth between the thoughts, and just remain focused, clear in mind, like complete silence. So let's first explore, see if for someone that doesn't have this mind control halqeh, rest of the individuals that they have, we can just use this time to just keep the mind completely silent during this time. And let's just experience if you can do it on your own, and then we come back, and then we try to we will receive the halqeh, and then we try to see how the experience is. So let's try it. Thank you. Now let's receive the halqeh and see if you can have the mind control. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I want you to look at this chart. There are a lot of writings on it, but I want you to open the halqeh, the mind control, and look at it without allowing your mind to get distracted by any of the text or anything. Just looking, with no analysis or reading or anything, just looking. That would be mind control, open eyes. Let's try. Thank you. Now, I would like you to think about something that you would like to design. It could be a drawing, or it could be a painting, it could be a car, it could be a dress, it could be a house, anything that you can think of. I want you to spend some time designing it in your mind, so you can focus on details of it, just starting from like a beginning and to the end. We're gonna explore with that for a few minutes, and then we come back. Thank you. Anyone would like to share? Let's share first if you were able to silence your mind without the halqeh, and then tell me how was your experience using the halqeh, and then let's talk about whether you designed anything and you're able to manage finishing your design, and also if you were able to look at the chart and not allowing your mind to analyze the details of it. Anyone would like to start?
Okay, I can start.
Please. Hi, Sana.
Hi, Priya. First, I want to talk about the chart.
Yes.
I noticed when I was looking at the chart, I couldn't shift my eyes were focused on one word, and I could not. I was actually trying to take my eyes off of it, and I couldn't. It was one word. Anywhere I wanted to look, I wanted to shift focus somewhere else, my eyes would just come back to that one word. Like I was just, straight up focus on one word. So what I felt in the end is I wasn't reading the details of the writings, but I could not shift my focus from one word.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I felt with the charts.
Okay.
With the design that you asked us to do, it's actually kind of funny because I'm in the process of maybe buying a place or designing a place for myself. So in the last few weeks, every time I'm trying to do, I don't know, like cosmic synchronicity or Faraday harmony or any other connection, I can't take my mind off of designing a house. So whenever I close my eyes or I try to focus, I started designing a house in my head. And now today, when you ask us to design, I couldn't get myself to design anything. I was trying to do it, and my mind just didn't want to do anything. It just wanted to just stay there and do nothing.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So that was so interesting. I was actually forcing. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, you've been designing it in your head for weeks, and it's just my mind just kind of felt lazy. As in, I just want to sit there and do nothing, think about nothing, no houses, nothing, just stare into nothingness.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so
Thanks.
yeah, so that was my experiences with those, and then with the trying to focus without receiving the halqeh, I actually felt more. I couldn't, as in, I felt more chatter in my head, like to a point of I was struggling to keep my eyes closed. Like I had to force it to close, and then I just wanted to open it, but I had to really force it to close. And then when we did receive the halqeh, when I was lying down and trying to receive the halqeh, the same thing actually. I couldn't focus then either. I was having a hard time to close my eyes, but I felt something on my head, like on my forehead more so. It's like somebody was pulling and pushing like up my eyebrows together, or pulling them apart, or pulling at my skin on my forehead, which didn't even end when you said, okay, come back, thank you. And I was still feeling that. Like I was kind of hoping that I could stay in it longer for that to go away, but it didn't. So anyways, yeah, those were what I felt with those 4 things that you were asking about.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Very interesting experience. Of course, you can just continue on your own. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share?
Hey, Priya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm a mess. No, you know, with lots of ups and downs. Um, Funny. I next week I have a deadline. I have a submission, and I was like really struggling with the layout of the. It's a Fraser Health project, and funny. It is really funny because I knew that we had this Halgheh that can help me, but I never use it. And then when you say use it for your design, I closed my eyes. I could see the layout vividly in my mind, and there was somewhere that I couldn't really figure out how to design that, and boom. And then I started like drawing it on the paper. So now I know what I'm gonna do tonight. Just
Okay.
working on a project.
Okay.
I keep forgetting. I don't know why, but they're there, and you just need to reach out and use them. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
very welcome. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad that I reminded you on that. And I'm glad that you got your design. Anyone else?
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother, how are you?
I also forgot about this Halga. Although I connect every to all the Halgas, I specifically forgot about this one. Just today, I had trouble focusing. I was at work today, actually, and I had all day I had trouble focusing, and finally, when I
Finally, you
received
know
it,
why was it? It's
what's that?
I said like finally you know why it was because today is a mental like mind control explosion is coming already.
Yeah, yeah, that's the next thing. So, the irony of it. But I felt at peace finally today, when receiving this Halga.
Nice.
And when I was looking at the picture, I'm viewing it from my phone, and I can only uh, keep my eye on the title.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't focus on anything else.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to design. I just started thinking of a car and
Mm-hmm.
all the components, like the platform,
Mm-hmm.
all the electrical wiring, and
Mm-hmm.
then transmission, engine design, uh, all the wiring connecting to the battery terminals.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Very, very detailed. I didn't get to fully finish designing it.
Yeah, of course. Not enough time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was good.
nice.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Yes, thank you. Um, so it is important to remember that once you try to have this halqeh and work toward having your mind presence at all time, you might actually experience some kickbacks. As you know, it's like any action equal opposite reaction. And that's why I said like you might feel a little bit more mind chatter than before. For some people are like that. And like Rashad was saying, like today specifically, I had mind chatter, maybe more. It's very common to have certain expulsions the day of the class, even though that you don't know what the halga is gonna be or what are we gonna talk about, or even like a weeks before, you could have some scans of that process coming up, and you don't know why it is because you haven't talked about it, obviously. So just get used to having some scans and expulsions coming a little bit earlier, or some aspects that you're aiming toward um, to get more intense and oppositional toward stopping you from that goal. But using Halvez allows us to have easier and smoother journey toward that accomplishment. Do you have any questions before we go to more details and continue our discussion? Okay. So as I was mentioning, we have two phase. One is manual phase, is the bayane phase, or that elementary stage of just a sample or the taste of it. That you get the halqa, you use that command. It could be like silence. You know, every halqa used with nazar, so we really don't need to say anything. But if you're not yet familiar with what nazar is, you might just say like silent or off or something like that. But you really don't have to say that. You can just nazar to that halqeh. As soon as you nazar, then your mind should be silent. So that's the primary stage, and then that could be like the remaining for a few seconds or a few minutes, depending on the individual. But then that is going toward becoming automatic. For some people, it gets automatic faster. For some people, it takes some time, depending on some circumstances. So the second phase, which is automatic phase, after the individuals are really showing, they did show their true enthusiasm and true willingness, wanting this automatic silence to be the case, then they can experience it. And what I mean by really wanting it, there's often things that you might say that you want, but in reality, or in truth, better say, that you kind of attach to some of the experience part of it that you're not really willing to let go. So that's what we saying, that we really need to say a good solid yes, we want this, and then really sacrificing anything that might stop that. You might even have some thoughts that, it's boring to have always like silence, there's not much there. It's gonna be boring. You're not gonna be able to like think about all different things and things like that. All these type of thoughts might come to you from your anti-Kemal self, convincing you that it's not a good idea to wanting this automatic, and it's just going to take the fun away. But remember that it is very essential, fundamental, and important to have this states of presence for all sorts of reasons that we mentioned. And it is one of the most essential and fundamental and important aspects of Kemal journey to embody that and integrate that aspect. So really, when we get to that state of we really want it, and then we use the halqeh, and then we really fight back, then we start experiencing that automatic aspects of it. So we don't really need to nazar anymore, and it's just that silent background that is always there, and then you always choose what to bring in as a thought to explore for purposes. So as we explore this halqeh, we should be able to have it with open eyes. Any circumstances we have, we want to be able to have that. From now on, any halqeh that you open, you can open it with this halqeh as well. So you always have that mind silence and just be available for any potential awareness and epiphanies that might come. And a lot of the times we might want to think about something, even if thinking about the past, it only should have, we only should do it for a purpose. That purpose might be learning from our past experiences or revisiting some information to maybe extract some useful information, but it always have to be purposeful. So if it's purposeful and then we just go there and get the information, come back, and that's it, that's what we want to have. We don't want to really waste our mental energy, be all over the place and all different types of topics and be really bombarded by all these different thoughts that we could have and waste our mental energy. So even though that we need to use our mental energy for some of the aspects of earthly life, that's okay. But we should just really regulate it and then use the best and the most efficient way that we can to remain the rest of the energy for thought of the whole, for the thought of the Kamal path, and etc. So, as I mentioned, it is possible for individuals to have some pressure on their head as a result of the new adjustments of the mind control, and these pressures of the head gonna be released soon. There are some of the allowed factors that we could have in terms of mind control, receiving epiphanies and awarenesses, whether that's auditory or if it's a visual or if it's mental, thinking and analyzing, decision making, rationalizing, um, comparing or doing analysis. Let's say if it's like political analysis or anthropology analysis or economy analysis or any type of analysis that we want to do. Design, choosing, purposeful, revisiting the memory, things like that. These are allowed. So it's okay to have that, these processes if it's necessary and purposeful. But the rest of them, you always want to remain that silence. Now, if you want to really look at we want to look into why we get ill from the mental silence or mind chatter standpoint. And what we're going to talk about is relevant to the chart that you're looking at in terms of the worldview and the perception filter. I'll get to that in a moment. So let's talk about the scans of this session. We have some scans, as you know, associated with the halqehs that we receive and associated with that course. Today, we're going to have some expulsions of illnesses or difficulties that might be related to the mind chatter and also anything to do with our worldview. So the illnesses that was related to our worldview. Now, mind chatter can cause illnesses. How? We're gonna talk about that. So a scattered mind that is constantly going all over the place and using a lot of mental energy to process all those irrelevant information is not able to really implement the necessary management for the body. As you know, our mind, our mental body is responsible for managing the body. Now, if someone's wasting that mental energy for all irrelevant purposes, then this mind scatterness can increase the susceptibility of individuals' illness, and it can also disturb the programming of the cell and body. Some of the types of these illnesses, for example, cancer is among these types, is, for example, a cell loses its programming, starts becoming hyperactive or hypoactive, which it can cause cancer or atrophy. The individuals that have really a scattered mind or a busy mind, they also have that processing while they're sleeping. So the mind is responsible for um, analyzing and organizing and arranging the information while we are sleeping. And if all these informations are too many and so much for our memory and all this, and if it has lots of stress and tensions and everything about this information, this could be released during the process. So the body would not have any tension. Now, despite of these two, the primary mission of mind is to organize and manage this body, the system of body, the cell and body management, and determine the task description of the body's parts. And that's done through the T consciousness distribution. So basically, the mental body distributes the T consciousness throughout all the constituent layers of our existence, determining the task description of every cell and every organ and the entire body at a whole. If this management, if these commands, if these task descriptions that should be provided to any parts of our body is disturbed, it can cause hyperactivity or hypoactivity, as I mentioned, cancer or atrophy. So one of the expulsions of this course is any illnesses or disorders that is caused as a result of the mind chatter throughout our life. These type of expulsions could be the type of illnesses or their expulsions, like just like something that you experienced in Faraday Wani, but this one is like exactly associated with the mind chatter. The sleeping problems could also come on the surface. As we know, sleep has two phases. We have REM, which is rapid eye movement, which the eye just like orbits, moving while sleeping, and then the other one is non-REM, and which is the deeper version. Now, the mind control is also possible to cause the deepest sleep during connections for allowing the mind to rest. So it is very common for individuals to actually sleep during the class even or during the connection because it just puts the mind on a standby kind of a state, and then it allows individuals to go really deep in a sleep. The other one is any type of problems associated with memories, forgetfulness, and etc. This is also might come as a type of expulsions. Another reason that we were talking about as factors behind the cause of illness is worldview. We talked about this before, but I'm going to review it because it's important and is relevant to what we discussed earlier with our mind and what we allow in our mind and what we allow in our mind and allowing to transform our beliefs, our worldview, and etc. Now, we know that humans have various different reactions to same circumstances and same environment. And that is really interesting because the same physical circumstances, according to science, if brain is responsible for everything, then same physical circumstance should have same effect on individual's body. But that's not the case. We know that individuals are reacting differently to same circumstances, to the same event, and their thoughts, their reactions are very different. So each individuals are reacting differently based on what we call mental perception filter or worldview filter. And this filter essentially is programmed in advance and is being programmed by individuals during their life, and that determines the individual's reaction to the certain circumstances and events. So some of these reactions can cause illnesses and cause some disturbances. For example, let's say someone hearing the death news and they might have a heart stroke, let's say. So that's the programming of the individuals beforehand in relationship to death. Hearing that news triggers that programming and runs it, and it affects the body immediately in a way that the individuals actually don't have enough time to really process how they want to react to it. So that type of reaction is related to the worldview. So the causality behind the illness becomes the worldview. So there's a worldview-based illness or mentosomatic illness because the worldview is in the mental body, is in the mind. So a lot of the faulty worldview can cause various type of illnesses and disorders. Any question? Okay. So as you know, worldview is the way that individuals are relating or interpreting or perceiving the external circumstances and events. So any individuals would encounter a certain scenario or certain event, and that, as you can see in the chart, goes through the brain sensors. First is like received through the physical sensors, and then it goes to the brain sensors, and then goes to the worldview. Here, this worldview is pre-programmed, and then it passes on to the mental body, and then mental body goes to the psychical body, and then it goes to the physical body. So now, from this point, any software framework of the worldview, it gives that conclusion to the process of mind and psyche. And then after that, it has this automatic reaction in accordance to that external circumstances. So the way that this worldview is programmed, which is basically in our semi-conscious level, and we basically program this by our conscious level, and it's the way that we analyze and examine things, and it really depends on how we put the equations, basically, like how we interpret things, how we formulate things, and how we allow that to transform our subconscious, semi-conscious level, that worldview filter. But the function of that is on subconscious level and automatic. That it presents itself in that way. So consequently, any of these programs that is on it considers a semi-conscious. So considering this, we will discuss this detail in ontology, so don't worry about it too much. So considering this explanation, the importance of worldview in relationship to other softwares, like let's say subconscious softwares, is very high, because if we program this, then we can consciously change that programming the way that we want. Any question? Okay. So the psyche, which is responsible for presenting and detecting our emotions, and mind is responsible for our perceptions, our thoughts, our interpretations, and the way that we look at the world, our worldview. Our mind has three different sections. We have conscious, semi-conscious, and subconscious. The activities on conscious level is related to how we think and how we make decisions. And through time, this analysis and processing these activities, which is conscious activities of the mind and the decision making, causes a certain product or certain consequences. We have, on the other hand, the subconscious part, which is doesn't take any time. The individuals would see the result of that programming that is predetermined and just face them and have that reaction related to that section, which is based on the thoughts and decision making that led to that programming, but the reaction has nothing to do with the thoughts and the decision making on the individuals at that time, because this section is subconscious. So in general, is programmed up to the age of 5 or 6, and changing that in adulthood is really, really hard. It's very difficult. But the semi-consciousness part of our existence, that even though that it's based on some predetermined information and programming, which is some integrated information, or um, some integrated information that we achieved throughout life. It has some actions and reactions related to it, that it's administrated on spot, without paying attention and decision making. It's kind of like automatic. But contrary to subconscious, we could change it and reprogram it again in our adult life. And in cases that the individuals are changing their worldview, let's say, or they have conscious and willful decision to change that, or they become convinced that they need to change it, it is possible to be reprogrammed. So the human worldview that is consist of this integrated information throughout childhood, that usually is uh, programmed as a result of being affected by external circumstances, is kind of like psychosocial, sociocultural circumstances. It is changeable through the information that is acceptable through through the individuals and also in adult life. So the worldview has an activity on semi-conscious level, and the reaction of the psyche and reaction of the mind has a role in changing its programming. Any questions or question? Okay. So the definition of mental somatic illnesses are the illnesses that are as a result of faulty programming. The worldview is programmed in a faulty way, and it causes the certain reactions and certain operations that can damage the body in different parts of the body. And we say mental somatic is it starts from mental level and it gets somatic, which is on a physical level. So it's a worldview based illness that is programmed and then can cause a physical issue, like, as I mentioned, a cancer or a heart stroke. So the importance of changing our worldview and making it align with the natural laws and align with the journey of Kamal, and knowing why we get ill and why we need to deal with those type of illnesses, and the importance of operating optimally in an alignment with natural law. It really emphasizes on these elements and reminds us of the importance of these harmonious operations and how they are interrelated and interconnected. Anyone have any question? Okay. If you don't have any question, let's do another 15 minutes at Tesal. Our theoretical information is done. We covered all the theoretical information of the session. So let's just do some Tesal for 15 minutes and try to see how much we can really remain in silence, in complete silence. And then we come back for any potential questions. Let's do it. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone would like to share or any questions?
Hi Priya. So something came to me while I was doing a TESOL. I know that I have to share it, so I'm gonna read it. Sorry if other people don't understand Persian. Maybe you can do a rough translation after.
Yes.
ثنای ساحت صبحی که طاقت ثنای ساحت صبحی که تا What? Sorry, I can't even read
Words.
my own handwriting. ثنای ساحت صبحی که طاقت تو بماند قریب قبله قرآن که طاعتت بنشاند تو از طریقت عشقی به حبل ما چه نشستی که هر دلی که بخواند ز جان ما بستاند.
Thank you, Saad. Thank you. Very beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, basically anybody who calls it can receive it, I guess.
It's really beautiful. Thank you.
No worries.
Anyone else would like to share?
Hi, Purya.
Hi, Samira.
Yeah, hi. I had a hard time shutting off my mind for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Beginning when you first gave the halqa and we went to Etzal, it was fine. This time around, maybe the length of the Etzal was long. I don't know.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's very normal to have some equal opposite resistant force. As you want to like take the full control, the longer you want to take, the more resistance you might feel at first. But fighting it back essentially and eventually will resolve.
Great,
Thank you for sharing.
of course.
Anyone else would like to share or any question? All right. So if you don't have anything to share or any other question, this is it for tonight. And thanks for being here. I wish you a great night and see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you for everything, brother.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me how was your experience. For the ones who are watching this video, please don't hesitate to pause and experience these connections and then come back for a few minutes and then continue. There are going to be more experiences as we go further. So just be ready to pause the video and experience it on yourself. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it. This is it for tonight and see you next week. Thank you.